Hello everyone, welcome back to Grandpa's Garage. Today we're going to go over the radiator installation. I have heard some people pronounce it radiator or radiator to rhyme with gladiator. Usually that's down in the southern states. I don't know why some people pronounce it that way. Maybe they're kind of being funny. I think the correct pronunciation is radiator. In selecting your radiator, a number of factors need to be taken into consideration. I've got them listed here, and I'll explain what those are a little bit. Now this is a picture I took right out of the installation manual for the Scott Rod's project that I'm building. Now the radiator he uses is out of a Mustang, early, Gen 1 Mustangs, the 65 to 66, 64 to 66, right through that range. And you'll notice where the inlet is. That's the hose at the top. It's way over there on the right. If your engine is designed to go to that right, then the Mustang engine will fit. The Mustang radiator will fit. But that's not always going to be the case. In my vehicle, I've got a Chevy 350 small block, and it's ports over to the left side of the engine, or driver's side of the engine, so I need to have the inlet on the other side. So I can't use a Mustang, it just doesn't work out. This is a stock 41 Willys with this little Blue Devil engine. And you'll notice the radiator is kind of tall and narrow. It fits right under there very well. There's one idea of the shape you want to go for. Now, this builder went with one that's low and wide. You've got width in there. Now, I seriously wanted to do this, but the steering box is in the way and I couldn't find one radiator that would fit. Now, if you want to get a hold of one of these guys' shops that do a custom fit, that will work out. You can get a hold of them and they can make one that will fit and will go down low like this. Now here's the low and wide configuration with a tilt hood. And you can see he also canted it back at an angle. This takes a lot of trickery and stuff. If you can make it all fit in your system, that's nice. It's not easy, but it fits. I ended up, as you can see, with the tall and narrow option. Next is cooling capacity. Now obviously a radiator designed for a little inline four-banger isn't going to cool a V8. When you go on Summit's website, there's a little bit of guideline on it, or you can do a little bit of research. But make sure you've got adequate cooling. Little too much cooling capacity isn't going to hurt you. Just make sure you don't undersize your radiator as far as its cooling capacity. And next comes your height, width, and depth. You got to make sure it fits. Now I waited until I had the body here before I selected a radiator, because this dog nose hood isn't going to take just any radiator. You don't want to purchase it, get it installed, have the hood come, try to put the hood on, discover, oops, doesn't fit. I got an interference issue. Installed onto your chassis. Then you go underneath and you take some measurements as best you can and determine roughly what size you want. And then you do a check fit. I went down to Lowe's and I bought some of this foam block stuff, and I built myself a mock-up fixture, did a check fit. Now it's also important to account for the geometry of your fan and shroud that is behind the radiator. You got to have clearance, forward from the accessories on the serpentine. Since most of us will be putting an automatic transmission in our builds, you've got to include the ports for the transmission cooling lines. And of course, when you're selecting it, make sure you've included space for your shrouded fan or shrouded fans if you have a 2-fan configuration. And there it is installed. Now, because I have this forward throttle, my port for the hot water return had to come off this angle here, and I had to bring it over to the upper left side of the radiator. And this is an easy hose. Yeah, it's a accordion hose. You just measure the length and order the part from Summit Racing. And that was an easy install. Now the bracket to hold this thing, the biggest challenge you have is the steering box. So I built this sort of a rack, welded this up and made a piece that comes up and over and down and has a saddle that it sits on down underneath. Now it's a wee little bit wobbly on this side, and I may put a brace down on this side. You can see I made a brace over on the other side. I may do that, but it works. Now, down on this side, the cooler coolant comes off the bottom. It's the outlet, and it goes up to the engine to the pump. I went on Summit and I bought a 90-degree elbow and a splice kit. What do you call it? A coupler ring, and another 90 degrees there. And let's see if we can see it on this side. I don't know if you can see it or not. But anyway, there we go. Another 90 degrees bends back. I should say bends up. And then 90 degrees back to the port. Now on this side, it was easy. I just welded up an extension of the chassis, and the radiator came with this mounting tab. I just laid it right on there. That's the right height. And then I put the overflow tank on. Now the overflow tank, his standard brackets create an interference issue with the alternator. I don't know if you can see it there, but anyway, I just used my 3D printer and made a bracket here that extended off this angle bar that I put on here. This angle bar also provides the upper mount for the brace here that holds the radiator rigid. Now down here underneath, you can see my brace going up over the steering box and the little saddle I have underneath that it sits on. And I had to have it up high enough so that I don't come across the crosslink for the steering system. I had to clear that. Down here I've got the transmission cooling lines. There's one, over here is the other. And that's the end of radiator installation. The key things you have to watch for is just to make sure it fits. Select one that fits, has the cooling capacity you need. If you've got an automatic transmission, make sure you've got those lines. And then stabilize everything. Brace that radiator, because it's heavy, and when you stop and accelerate, that can create a lot of things, plus all its vibration, shock on the road. And then, tie down your lines. Your not just your coolant lines, but your transmission coolant lines, but also make sure that the hose on the inlet and the outlet are all good and secure, and you don't have any interference issues. So that's it for today, and the next video is going to be, I'm going to get started in electrical wiring, which is one of the most interesting parts of a build, or complicated parts, because you're starting to integrate systems. All right, folks, keep your wheels between the lines.